and welcome to Miss Fluent English. This is the place where you learn English in a fun, simple, and powerful way. Before we begin, I want you to do 3 important things. First, like this video. Second, subscribe to my channel, Ms. Fluent English, so you never miss a lesson. And third, leave a comment below. Tell me, do you enjoy listening to stories in English? Yes or no? I really want to know your answer. Now, let's begin today's exciting lesson. Our topic is how to tell stories in English fluently. Not slowly, not word by word, but fluently, like a natural English speaker. But first, let me ask you a question. Have you ever wanted to tell a story in English, but then you stopped? Maybe you forgot the words. Maybe your mind went blank. Maybe you felt shy or nervous. Or maybe your story sounded boring, even though in your own language it was very interesting. If you said yes, you are not alone. Many English learners feel the same. But here is the good news. Telling stories in English is a skill. It is not a talent you are born with. It is something you can learn. And today, I will show you, step by step, how to do it. In this lesson, you will learn how to start your story in a strong and exciting way. Use simple English sentences that flow naturally. Add details that make your story interesting. Keep the listener curious and wanting more. We will also practice shadowing. That means you will listen to me and then repeat after me. When you do this, you practice fluency, rhythm, and confidence. So, are you ready? Let's begin. Imagine this. You are sitting with a friend. Your friend says, "Tell me something interesting that happened to you." What do you say? Many learners think too much. They want to use difficult grammar. But here is my secret. The best stories are usually told in very simple English. Listen carefully to this short example. I will tell you a story in 3 short sentences. One day, I missed the bus to school. I decided to run, but then it started raining. When I finally arrived, I was wet and late, and everyone laughed. Did you hear that? It is only 3 sentences, very short, very easy. But it is still a story. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Now let's shadow it together. Listen to me, then repeat. One day, I missed the bus to school. Pause for shadowing. I decided to run, but then it started raining. Pause for shadowing. When I finally arrived, I was wet and late, and everyone laughed. Pause for shadowing. Good job! You just told a short story in English. See? It's not difficult. The key is to keep it simple. Now, let's learn the first golden rule of storytelling in English. Rule number 1. Always start with time or place. This makes your listener pay attention. For example, yesterday morning, last summer, when I was 10 years old, in my hometown, at the park, these phrases are like doors. They open the story. Without them, your story has no clear beginning. Let's practice together. Repeat after me. Yesterday morning, pause for shadowing. Last summer, pause for shadowing. When I was 10 years old, pause for shadowing. In my hometown, Pause for shadowing. At the park, pause for shadowing. Excellent. Now you have learned how to begin a story. Let me give you another short example using these beginnings. Yesterday morning, I saw a cat on my way to school. It was following me. Then suddenly, it jumped on my bag. That is a complete mini story. It is short, funny, and easy to understand. Now shadow it with me. Yesterday morning, I saw a cat on my way to school. Pause for shadowing. It was following me. Pause for shadowing. Then suddenly, it jumped on my bag. Pause for shadowing. Did you feel the rhythm? Short sentences, simple words. But it is still a story. Here is something important. When you tell stories in English, you do not need big, complicated words. Native speakers often use small, common words. What matters most is the feeling and the flow. For example, compare these two ways. Way 1. Yesterday, I encountered a feline that persistently trailed behind me until it unexpectedly leaped onto my satchel. Way 2. Yesterday, I saw a cat. It followed me. Then it jumped on my bag. Which way is better for daily English? The second way. It is clear. It is simple. It is natural. So remember, do not try to impress with difficult vocabulary. Impress with clear, easy, fluent sentences. Now, let's practice together again. I will tell you 3 mini stories. You will shadow each one with me. Story 1. Last summer, I went to the beach. The water was cold, but I swam anyway. I felt so happy and free. Pause for shadowing each sentence. Story 2. When I was 10 years old, I broke my arm. I was climbing a tree and I fell down. It hurt, but later I laughed about it. Pause for shadowing each sentence. Story 3. In my hometown, there is a small bakery. Every morning, I could smell the fresh bread. It always made me hungry. Pause for shadowing each sentence. Great work. You see, these stories are easy to tell, and they sound real. Let's review what we learned in today's part. 1. To tell stories fluently, keep your English simple. 2. Always start with a time or place. 3. Use short, clear sentences. 4. Practice shadowing to build fluency and confidence. In the next part, we will go deeper. You will learn how to add details, use emotions, and make your stories more exciting. We will practice step by step together. So don't go away. Part 2 is coming next. We are going to take the next step. We will learn how to make your story more interesting by adding details and emotions. Let me ask you a question. When you listen to a story in your own language, what makes you excited? Usually, it is the details, the small things, the feelings. Without details, a story is flat. With details, the same story becomes alive. So how can you do this in English? The answer is simple. Use easy adjectives, action words, and feelings. Let's begin with adjectives. Adjectives are words that describe things. For example, instead of saying, I saw a cat, you can say, I saw a small white cat, or I saw a big black cat. The story becomes more colorful. Now shadow with me. I saw a small white cat. Pause for shadowing. I saw a big black cat. Pause for shadowing. Good. Do you see how one small adjective makes the picture clearer in your mind? Next, let's add action. Action makes the story move. For example, I saw a cat. That's okay, but not very interesting. Now add action. I saw a cat. It ran across the street. I saw a cat. It climbed the tree. Action words are powerful. They make your listener imagine movement. Now shadow these with me. I saw a cat. It ran across the street. Pause for shadowing. I saw a cat. It climbed the tree. Pause for shadowing. Excellent. Finally, let's add emotions. Emotions make the listener connect with you. Emotions show how you felt in that moment. For example, I saw a cat. I was surprised. I saw a cat. I was scared. I saw a cat. I was happy. Each emotion changes the story. Even if the action is the same, the feeling changes everything. Let's practice shadowing with emotion. I saw a cat. I was surprised. Pause for shadowing. I saw a cat. I was scared. Pause for shadowing. I saw a cat. I was happy. Pause for shadowing. Very good. Now let's put these three things together: adjectives, action, and emotion. Listen to this story. Yesterday afternoon, I saw a small gray cat. It ran quickly across the road. I was surprised because it almost hit a car. Do you feel the difference? This is no longer just I saw a cat. It is a mini story with details, action, and emotion. Let's shadow it together. Yesterday afternoon, I saw a small gray cat. Pause for shadowing. It ran quickly across the road. Pause for shadowing. I was surprised because it almost hit a car. Pause for shadowing. Excellent! Now it's your turn. I will give you a simple sentence. You will think of a way to add details, action, and emotions. The sentence is, I saw a dog. How can you add adjectives? For example, a big brown dog. How can you add action? For example, it barked loudly. How can you add emotions? For example, I was scared. So your story becomes, I saw a big brown dog. It barked loudly. I was scared. See how easy that is? Now shadow it with me. I saw a big brown dog. Pause for shadowing. It barked loudly. Pause for shadowing. I was scared. Pause for shadowing. Very good. Let's try one more together. The simple sentence is, I went to the park. Now, let's add details. For example, I went to the park near my house. Now, add action. For example, I played football with my friends. Now, add emotions. For example, I felt excited and happy. So the story becomes, I went to the park near my house. I played football with my friends. I felt excited and happy. Now shadow with me. I went to the park near my house. Pause for shadowing. I played football with my friends. Pause for shadowing. I felt excited and happy. Pause for shadowing. Wonderful! You are doing very well. Now let me teach you a special trick. If you want your story to be more interesting, you can add a small surprise. For example, I went to the park near my house. I played football with my friends. Suddenly, it started raining heavily. We all ran and laughed. This surprise makes the listener curious and excited. It makes the story fun to hear. Now shadow it with me. I went to the park near my house. Pause for shadowing. I played football with my friends. Pause for shadowing. Suddenly, it started raining heavily. Pause for shadowing. We all ran and laughed. Pause for shadowing. Perfect. So let's review what we learned in part 2. 1. Add adjectives to give color to your story. 2. Add action words to give movement. 3. Add emotions to connect with your listener. 4. Add a small surprise to keep the story exciting. These 4 tools will change your English storytelling. Even if you use simple words, your story will feel alive. Now here is your small homework. Think of one thing that happened to you yesterday. Use adjectives, action, emotion, and maybe a surprise. Then write it in the comments below this video. I will read your stories. In the next part, we will go even deeper. I will teach you how to connect your sentences smoothly, so your story flows naturally like water. You will learn useful linking words such as then, after that, suddenly, and more. It's time to make your story flow like water. Have you ever told a story in English that sounded like this? Yesterday I went to the park. I saw my friend. We played football. It started raining. We ran home. Yes, this is a story. It is correct, but it sounds too flat, too robotic. It feels like a list, not a story. So what can we do? We can connect the sentences smoothly. How? By using linking words. Linking words are like bridges. They connect one sentence to the next sentence. They help your story sound more natural and alive. Let me give you some very useful linking words for beginners. First, then, after that, suddenly, finally. These 5 words can already make your story smooth and fluent. Let's try them in action. Story without linking words. Yesterday I went to the park. I saw my friend. We played football. It started raining. We ran home. Story with linking words. First I went to the park. Then I saw my friend. After that, we played football. Suddenly, it started raining. Finally, we ran home. Do you hear the difference? The story flows. It feels connected. Now shadow it with me. First, I went to the park. Pause for shadowing. Then, I saw my friend. Pause for shadowing. After that, we played football. Pause for shadowing. Suddenly, it started raining. Pause for shadowing. Finally, we ran home. Pause for shadowing. Excellent. Let's practice with another example. Without linking words. Last weekend, I cooked dinner. My friend came to visit. We ate together. We watched a movie. I fell asleep. With linking words, Last weekend, I cooked dinner. Then, my friend came to visit. After that, we ate together. Next, we watched a movie. Finally, I fell asleep. Now shadow this version with me. Last weekend, I cooked dinner. Pause for shadowing. Then, my friend came to visit. Pause for shadowing. After that, we ate together. Pause for shadowing. Next, we watched a movie. Pause for shadowing. Finally, I fell asleep. Pause for shadowing. Great job! Now let's learn the magic of one very special linking word. Suddenly. Why is it special? Because it adds surprise. It changes the feeling of the story. Listen to this story. I was walking to school. I found a coin on the ground. I picked it up. I put it in my pocket. Okay, this is normal. But now, let's add suddenly. I was walking to school. Suddenly, I found a coin on the ground. I picked it up. I put it in my pocket. Do you hear the difference? With suddenly, the listener feels surprise. The story becomes more interesting. Now shadow it with me. I was walking to school. Pause for shadowing. Suddenly, I found a coin on the ground. Pause for shadowing. I picked it up. Pause for shadowing. I put it in my pocket. Pause for shadowing. Excellent! Now let's practice connecting sentences together step by step. Exercise 1. I will give you 5 simple sentences. First, repeat them one by one. Then, I will show you how to connect them with linking words. Here are the sentences. 1. I woke up late. 2. I missed breakfast. 3. I ran to the bus stop. 4. The bus left without me. 5. I walked to school. First, shadow the sentences alone. I woke up late. Pause. I missed breakfast. Pause. I ran to the bus stop. Pause. The bus left without me. Pause. I walked to school. Pause. Now, let's connect them. First, I woke up late. Then, I missed breakfast. After that, I ran to the bus stop. Suddenly, the bus left without me. Finally, I walked to school. Now shadow the connected version. First, I woke up late. Pause for shadowing. Then, I missed breakfast. Pause for shadowing. After that, I ran to the bus stop. Pause for shadowing. Suddenly, the bus left without me. Pause for shadowing. Finally, I walked to school. Pause for shadowing. Fantastic! Now your story has rhythm and flow. Here's something important. You do not need many linking words. If you try to use too many, your story will sound unnatural. Just choose 1 or 2, and your story will already sound smoother. For example, yesterday I went shopping. I bought some fruit. I met an old friend. We talked for a while. I went home. That's okay. But now, listen with only 2 linking words. Yesterday, I went shopping. Then, I bought some fruit. I met an old friend, and we talked for a while. Finally, I went home. Do you see? Just 2 linking words, but the story sounds better. Now, let's review the linking words we practiced today. First, then, after that, next, suddenly, finally. Each one has a clear purpose. First begins the story. Then and after that, move the story forward. Next adds another action. Suddenly creates surprise. Finally closes the story. Now shadow all of them with me one more time. First, pause. Then, pause. After that, pause. Next, pause. Suddenly, pause. Finally, pause. Very good. Here's your small homework for today. Think of a simple story about your morning today. Write it in the comments below, but use at least 3 linking words. First, then, and finally. Example. First, I woke up at 7 a.m. Then, I brushed my teeth. Finally, I ate breakfast. You can write your own version. Remember, short and simple is okay. The goal is fluency, not perfection. We are going to make your stories even more powerful. How? By adding dialogue. Dialogue means conversation between people. When you add dialogue, your story feels alive, like a movie. It makes your listener feel like they are right there, inside the story with you. Let me give you a simple example without dialogue. Yesterday, I met my friend Anna. We went to a cafe. We drank coffee. We talked for 1 hour. Then we went home. Okay, that is fine, but it feels flat. Now, let's add dialogue. Yesterday, I met my friend Anna. We went to a cafe. I said, "Hi, Anna. How are you?" She smiled and said, "I'm good. Let's order coffee." We talked for 1 hour, and finally, we went home. Do you hear the difference? The dialogue makes the story real. You can imagine the people. You can hear their voices. Now, let's shadow the dialogue version together. Yesterday, I met my friend Anna. Pause for shadowing. We went to a cafe. Pause for shadowing. I said, "Hi, Anna, how are you?" Pause for shadowing. She smiled and said, "I'm good. Let's order coffee." Pause for shadowing. We talked for 1 hour, and finally, we went home. Pause for shadowing. Excellent. So how do you add dialogue to your story? It's simple. Just use I said and he said or she said. Keep the sentences short. Here are some useful phrases for dialogue. I said, he said, she asked, I answered. You don't need difficult grammar. You just need these simple patterns. Let's practice some short dialogues. I said, "What are you doing?" Pause for shadowing. She said, "I'm reading a book." Pause for shadowing. He asked, "Do you want to play football?" Pause for shadowing. I answered, "Yes, let's go." Pause for shadowing. Very good. Now let's build a full mini story with dialogue. Listen carefully. Last Saturday, I was at the park. I saw my friend Tom. I said, "Hi, Tom. Long time no see." He laughed and said, "Yes. How are you these days?" I answered, "I'm great. Do you want to walk with me?" Tom said, "Sure. Let's walk together." We walked and talked for an hour. That is a complete story with dialogue. It sounds more interesting and natural. Now shadow the story with me. Last Saturday, I was at the park. Pause for shadowing. I saw my friend Tom. Pause for shadowing. I said, "Hi, Tom. Long time no see." Pause for shadowing. He laughed and said, "Yes. How are you these days?" Pause for shadowing. I answered, "I'm great. Do you want to walk with me?" Pause for shadowing. Tom said, "Sure, let's walk together." Pause for shadowing. We walked and talked for an hour. Pause for shadowing. Fantastic work. Now, let's make it a little more exciting by adding a surprise inside the dialogue. Listen to this. I was waiting at the bus stop. A man came and said, "Excuse me, do you know what time it is?" I looked at my phone and said, "It's 8:15. Suddenly he said, "Oh no, I'm late for my interview." I smiled and said, "Good luck." Then he ran away quickly. This short story is more fun because of the dialogue and the surprise. Now shadow it with me. I was waiting at the bus stop. Pause for shadowing. A man came and said, "Excuse me, do you know what time it is?" Pause for shadowing. I looked at my phone and said, "It's 8:15. Pause for shadowing. Suddenly he said, "Oh no, I'm late for my interview." Pause for shadowing. I smiled and said, "Good luck." Pause for shadowing. Then he ran away quickly. Pause for shadowing. Excellent. Here's a simple formula for you to use in your own stories. 1 sentence of action. 1 sentence of dialogue. Repeat. This rhythm makes your story easy to tell and fun to listen to. For example, I opened the door. My mother said, "Dinner is ready." I sat down at the table. My father asked, "How was your day?" I smiled and said, "It was great." Do you see the rhythm? Action, dialogue, action, dialogue. Now shadow this story. I opened the door. Pause for shadowing. My mother said, "Dinner is ready." Pause for shadowing. I sat down at the table. Pause for shadowing. My father asked, "How was your day?" Pause for shadowing. I smiled and said, "It was great." Pause for shadowing. Perfect. Here's something important to remember. When you tell dialogue in English, you do not need to change your voice a lot, but if you can, it's good to make small changes. For example, when you say, "What are you doing?" you can raise your voice a little. When you say, "I'm tired," you can lower your voice. These small changes make the story sound more real. But even if you don't change your voice, it's okay. The most important thing is to practice speaking the words clearly and fluently. Let's review part 4. 1. Dialogue makes your story real and alive. 2. Use simple patterns like I said and he said. 3. Mix action and dialogue to keep your story interesting. 4. Add a small surprise in the dialogue to make the listener curious. Now, here's your homework. Think of one short conversation you had today. Write it in the comments below, using English. For example, I said, "Good morning." My friend said, "Good morning. How are you?" I answered, "I'm fine, thank you." Write your own version and practice speaking it aloud. We are going to focus on something very important, describing places and people. Why is this important? Because when you tell a story, your listener needs to see the picture in their mind. If you only say, "I went to the park," "I met a man," that is too plain. But if you describe the park and the man, the story becomes real, like a movie inside the listener's head. And here's the best news. You don't need complicated words. Simple descriptions are enough. Let's start with places. When you describe a place, you can use 3 simple details. 1. Size, big, small. 2. Color green, blue, red. 3. Feeling quiet, busy, noisy, beautiful. For example, I went to a small, quiet park. The grass was green. It felt peaceful. Do you see? Only 3 details, but already the listener can imagine it. Now shadow with me. I went to a small, quiet park. Pause for shadowing. The grass was green. Pause for shadowing. It felt peaceful. Pause for shadowing. Excellent. Let's try another place. A city street. I walked on a big, busy street. The lights were bright and colorful. It felt noisy but exciting. Now shadow this description. I walked on a big, busy street. Pause for shadowing. The lights were bright and colorful. Pause for shadowing. It felt noisy but exciting. Pause for shadowing. Great job. Now let's practice describing people. When you describe a person, again, use 3 simple details. 1. Size tall, short. 2. Hair or clothes, long hair, red shirt. 3. Feeling or action. Smiling, tired, running. For example, I saw a tall man. He had short black hair. He was smiling at me. Now shadow it. I saw a tall man. Pause for shadowing. He had short black hair. Pause for shadowing. He was smiling at me. Pause for shadowing. Very good. Let's try another example with a woman. I met a young woman. She wore a blue dress. She looked very tired. Now shadow it. I met a young woman. Pause for shadowing. She wore a blue dress. Pause for shadowing. She looked very tired. Pause for shadowing. Excellent. Now let's build a mini story using description of a place and a person together. Listen carefully. Yesterday evening, I went to a small cafe. It was quiet, with soft music playing. The lights were warm and yellow. Inside, I saw a woman. She had long brown hair and a red coat. She was reading a book and drinking coffee. Do you see the picture in your mind? That is the power of description. Now shadow the story with me. Yesterday evening, I went to a small cafe. Pause for shadowing. It was quiet, with soft music playing. Pause for shadowing. The lights were warm and yellow. Pause for shadowing. Inside, I saw a woman. Pause for shadowing. She had long brown hair and a red coat. Pause for shadowing. She was reading a book and drinking coffee. Pause for shadowing. Fantastic. Here's a small tip. When you describe, Don't use too many details. If you use 5, 6, 7 details, the listener will get bored. 3 details are usually enough. Think of it like painting. You don't need every brush stroke. Just a few colors to make the picture clear. Now, let's practice with a surprise element. Listen to this. Last night, I walked on a dark, empty street. The air was cold, and I felt nervous. Suddenly, I saw a man. He was tall, wearing a black jacket, and he looked serious. But then he smiled and said, "Good evening." I felt safe again. Do you feel the atmosphere? The street, the man, the feeling all together make the story strong. Now shadow the story. Last night I walked on a dark, empty street. Pause for shadowing. The air was cold, and I felt nervous. Pause for shadowing. Suddenly I saw a man. Pause for shadowing. He was tall, wearing a black jacket, and he looked serious. Pause for shadowing. But then he smiled and said, "Good evening." Pause for shadowing. I felt safe again. Pause for shadowing. Ah! Excellent work. Now let's practice together step by step. I will give you a basic sentence, and we will expand it with description. Sentence. I was in a park. Step 1. Add size. I was in a big park. Step 2. Add color. I was in a big park with green trees. Step 3. Add feeling. I was in a big park with green trees. It was peaceful. Now, shadow. I was in a big park with green trees. It was peaceful. Pause for shadowing. Perfect. Now another one. Sentence. I met a man. Step 1. Add size. I met a tall man. Step 2. Add clothes. I met a tall man in a blue shirt. Step 3. Add action. I met a tall man in a blue shirt. He was running. Now shadow. I met a tall man in a blue shirt. He was running. Pause for shadowing. Fantastic. Let's review what we learned in Part 5. 1. Describe places with size, color, and feeling. 2. Describe people with size, hair, or clothes, and action or feeling. 3. Use only a few details. 3 is enough. 4. Mix description with action and dialogue to make your story vivid. Here's your homework. Write a short story with one place and one person. Describe the place with 3 details. Describe the person with 3 details. Example: I went to a small bookstore. It was quiet, with many shelves of books. The air smelled like old paper. Inside, I saw a young boy. He had curly hair, a green jacket, and big glasses. He was reading a comic book and laughing. Now it's your turn. Write your version in the comments and practice speaking it aloud. We are going to learn something very important: how to talk about past events in order. Why is this important? Because when you tell a story, most of the time, you are talking about the past. You are telling what already happened. And to do this clearly, you need to use the past tense. Also, you need to tell events in order, step by step, so your listener can follow easily. Let's start simple. In English, the regular past tense is usually made by adding al-ed to the verb. For example, play, played, walk, walked, watch, watched, visit. Now shadow with me. I played soccer yesterday. Pause for shadowing. I walked to school this morning. Pause for shadowing. I watched a movie last night. Pause for shadowing. I visited my grandmother last week. Pause for shadowing. Great job, but not all verbs are regular. Some are irregular. For example, go, went. See, saw. Eat, ate. Drink, drank. Now shadow with me. I went to the park yesterday. Pause for shadowing. I saw my best friend. Pause for shadowing. I ate pizza for lunch. Pause for shadowing. I drank orange juice. Pause for shadowing. Excellent. Now, let's practice putting events in order. Think of it like steps in a journey. First, then, after that, finally. These words help your listener follow the story. Listen to this short story. Yesterday, I woke up at 7 o'clock. First, I brushed my teeth and washed my face. Then, I ate breakfast. After that, I went to school. Finally, I came home and watched TV. Now shadow the story. Yesterday, I woke up at 7 o'clock. Pause for shadowing. First, I brushed my teeth and washed my face. Pause for shadowing. Then, I ate breakfast. Pause for shadowing. After that, I went to school. Pause for shadowing. Finally, I came home and watched TV. Pause for shadowing. Fantastic! Do you see how the order words first, then, after that, finally make the story clear? The listener can imagine your whole day step by step. Now let's make a story with more feeling. Listen carefully. Last Saturday, I woke up late. First, I made a cup of hot coffee. Then, I looked outside. The sky was dark and rainy. After that, I called my friend and said, "Let's stay home today." Finally, I read a book and listened to music. It was a quiet and relaxing day. Now shadow with me. Last Saturday, I woke up late. Pause for shadowing. First, I made a cup of hot coffee. Pause for shadowing. Then, I looked outside. The sky was dark and rainy. Pause for shadowing. After that, I called my friend and said, "Let's stay home today." Pause for shadowing. Finally, I read a book and listened to music. Pause for shadowing. It was a quiet and relaxing day. Pause for shadowing. Wonderful! Now let's try something more exciting. With suspense. Yesterday evening, I went to the supermarket. First, I bought some apples and bread. Then, I walked to the checkout line. Suddenly, the lights went out. The store was dark. After that, people started whispering and looking around. Finally, the lights came back. Everyone laughed, and I paid for my food. Now shadow this story. Yesterday evening, I went to the supermarket. Pause for shadowing. First, I bought some apples and bread. Pause for shadowing. Then, I walked to the checkout line. Suddenly, the lights went out. The store was dark. Pause for shadowing. After that, people started whispering and looking around. Pause for shadowing. Finally, the lights came back. Pause for shadowing. Everyone laughed, and I paid for my food. Pause for shadowing. Great storytelling. Now, here's an important tip. When you tell a story, do not jump around too much. If you say, "Yesterday I ate lunch, then I went to school, and in the morning I brushed my teeth," it sounds confusing. Instead, always start from the beginning and move forward in time. So, the order is very important. Let's practice another step-by-step story with a person inside. Last night, I met my friend Anna. First, we went to a small restaurant. We ate noodles and drank tea. Then, we walked in the park. The air was cool and the moon was bright. After that, Anna told me a funny story, and we laughed together. Finally, we said goodbye, and I went home happy. Now shadow this story. Last night, I met my friend Anna. Pause for shadowing. First, we went to a small restaurant. Pause for shadowing. We ate noodles and drank tea. Pause for shadowing. Then, we walked in the park. The air was cool and the moon was bright. Pause for shadowing. After that, Anna told me a funny story, and we laughed together. Pause for shadowing. Finally, we said goodbye, and I went home happy. Pause for shadowing. Beautiful. Let's practice with you now. I will give you a beginning, and you finish the story in the comments. Here is the beginning. Yesterday morning, I woke up early. First, I made some tea. Then, I opened the window and looked outside. After that, now, you finish the story. What happened after that? Write in the comments. This practice will help you think in English, step by step, and tell your own stories. Now, let's review part 6. 1. Use past tense to tell what already happened. 2. Use simple words like first, then, after that, finally to show the order. 3. Always tell your story step by step, not jumping around. 4. Add feeling words to make the story more interesting. Here is your homework. Write a short story about what you did last weekend. Use at least 4 order words. First, then, after that, finally. Read it aloud 3 times. Then shadow one of the stories in this video. We will go deeper. We will learn how to add emotions and feelings to your stories. Why is this important? Because stories are not only about what happened, they are also about how you felt. When you share your feelings, your story becomes real, human, and powerful. Your listener will connect with you. Let's start with some simple feeling words. Happy, sad, angry, tired, scared, excited, nervous, surprised. These are basic words, but they are very powerful. When you use them in your story, your listener understands your heart. Now shadow these feeling sentences with me. I was happy. Pause for shadowing. I was sad. Pause for shadowing. I was angry. Pause for shadowing. I was tired. Pause for shadowing. I was scared. Pause for shadowing. I was excited. Pause for shadowing. I was nervous. Pause for shadowing. I was surprised. Pause for shadowing. Excellent. Now let's put feelings into a story. Listen. Yesterday, I went to the park. At first, I was happy because the sun was shining. Then, I felt excited when I saw my friends. Later, it started to rain, and I felt surprised. Finally, I was tired but still happy when I went home. Now shadow this story with me. Yesterday, I went to the park. Pause for shadowing. At first, I was happy because the sun was shining. Pause for shadowing. Then, I felt excited when I saw my friends. Pause for shadowing. Later, it started to rain, and I felt surprised. Pause for shadowing. Finally, I was tired but still happy when I went home. Pause for shadowing. Beautiful! Do you see? The story is not only about the events, it is also about the emotions. This makes the listener feel what you felt. Now let's practice with a scary moment. Listen carefully. Last night, I walked home alone. The street was dark, and I felt nervous. Suddenly, I heard footsteps behind me. I was scared. Then, I turned around and saw my friend. I felt so relieved and happy. Now shadow with me. Last night, I walked home alone. Pause for shadowing. The street was dark, and I felt nervous. Pause for shadowing. Suddenly, I heard footsteps behind me. Pause for shadowing. I was scared. Pause for shadowing. Then, I turned around and saw my friend. Pause for shadowing. I felt so relieved and happy. Pause for shadowing. Fantastic work. Here's a small trick. You can use emotion words together with action. For example, I was excited. I smiled and jumped. I was sad. I cried. I was angry. I shouted. When you show feelings with action, the story becomes even stronger. Now shadow these. I was excited. I smiled and jumped. Pause for shadowing. I was sad. I cried. Pause for shadowing. I was angry. I shouted. Pause for shadowing. Great job. Let's make another story, this time with surprise and joy. Listen. Yesterday morning, I opened my door. I saw a big box on the ground. I was surprised. I opened the box and saw a new phone inside. I felt so happy and excited. It was a gift from my brother. Now shadow this story. Yesterday morning, I opened my door. Pause for shadowing. I saw a big box on the ground. Pause for shadowing. I was surprised. Pause for shadowing. I opened the box and saw a new phone inside. Pause for shadowing. I felt so happy and excited. Pause for shadowing. It was a gift from my brother. Pause for shadowing. Wonderful. Here's another practice with mixed emotions. Listen. Last week, I had an English test. At first, I was nervous because the room was very quiet. Then, I felt confident when I answered the first question. Later, I got stuck on a hard question, and I felt worried. Finally, I finished the test, and I felt proud of myself. Now shadow this story. Last week, I had an English test. Pause for shadowing. At first, I was nervous because the room was very quiet. Pause for shadowing. Then, I felt confident when I answered the first question. Pause for shadowing. Later, I got stuck on a hard question and I felt worried. Pause for shadowing. Finally, I finished the test and I felt proud of myself. Pause for shadowing. Amazing! Now let's practice together. I will give you a simple event. You add the feeling. Event. I met my old friend. What feeling can you add? Happy, excited, surprised. Example. I met my old friend. I was so surprised and happy. Now try with another one. Event. I lost my phone. You can add, I was nervous and scared. Your turn. Write your version in the comments. Here's a little bonus tip. When you want to show stronger feelings, you can add words like so or very. I was very happy. I was so tired. I was very surprised. Now shadow these. I was very happy. Pause for shadowing. I was so tired. Pause for shadowing. I was very surprised. Pause for shadowing. Perfect! Now let's review part 7. 1. Feelings make your stories human and interesting. 2. Use simple emotion words like happy, sad, angry, scared, excited, nervous, surprised. 3. Combine feelings with action for stronger effect. 4. Use words like so, very, really to make the feeling stronger. Here is your homework. Think about one event from last week. Write it in 45 sentences. Add at least 3 feelings. For example, last Friday, I went shopping. At first, I was excited. Then I was surprised when I saw my teacher in the store. Finally, I felt happy when we talked and laughed together. Now it's your turn. Write your version and share it. We are going to take a big step forward. We will learn how to connect small stories together into one long story. Why is this important? Because when you speak English, you don't want to stop after 2 or 3 sentences. You want to keep talking smoothly, with fluency and confidence. And to do this, you need to learn how to link events, places, people, and feelings into one big story. Let's start with a simple idea. Imagine that you have 3 small stories. Story 1, I went to the park. Story 2, I met my friend. Story 3, we ate ice cream. If you say them like this 1, 2, 3, it sounds simple but too short. But if you connect them with linking words, it becomes a real story. Listen. Yesterday afternoon, I went to the park. While I was walking, I met my friend Anna. We sat down together and talked. Then we bought some ice cream. It was delicious, and I felt happy. Do you hear the difference? The story is longer, smoother, and more natural. Now shadow with me. Yesterday afternoon, I went to the park. Pause for shadowing. While I was walking, I met my friend Anna. Pause for shadowing. We sat down together and talked. Pause for shadowing. Then we bought some ice cream. Pause for shadowing. It was delicious, and I felt happy. Pause for shadowing. Excellent. Now let's practice some linking words that help you connect small stories. First then, after that, finally. But also while, because, so, and, but. These words are like bridges. They connect one part of your story to the next. Now, shadow these simple examples. I was hungry, so I ate some bread. Pause for shadowing. It was raining, but I still went outside. Pause for shadowing. I was walking, and I saw a dog. Pause for shadowing. I stayed home because I was tired. Pause for shadowing. Perfect. Let's try connecting a bigger story using these bridges. Listen carefully. Last Sunday, I stayed home because it was raining. At first, I felt bored, but then I turned on the TV. I watched a funny movie, and I laughed a lot. After that, I cooked noodles, so I was not hungry anymore. Finally, I read a book while I drank hot tea. It was a simple but nice day. Now shadow with me. Last Sunday, I stayed home because it was raining. Pause for shadowing. At first, I felt bored, but then I turned on the TV. Pause for shadowing. I watched a funny movie, and I laughed a lot. Pause for shadowing. After that, I cooked noodles, so I was not hungry anymore. Pause for shadowing. Finally, I read a book while I drank hot tea. Pause for shadowing. It was a simple but nice day. Pause for shadowing. Very good. Do you notice how the story feels longer and more complete? That is the power of connecting small stories. Now let's practice building a connected story with people. Listen. Yesterday I went shopping. While I was walking in the store, I saw my teacher. I felt nervous at first, but then we started to talk. We laughed and she told me about her weekend. After that, we both bought fruit and vegetables. Finally, we said goodbye and I went home. Now shadow this story. Yesterday I went shopping. Pause for shadowing. While I was walking in the store, I saw my teacher. Pause for shadowing. I felt nervous at first, but then we started to talk. Pause for shadowing. We laughed, and she told me about her weekend. Pause for shadowing. After that, we both bought fruit and vegetables. Pause for shadowing. Finally, we said goodbye, and I went home. Pause for shadowing. Wonderful! Here's a step-by-step method you can use to make any story longer. Step 1. Start with a simple event. Example, I went to the park. Step 2. Add description. It was big and green. Step 3. Add action. I met my friend. Step 4. Add feeling. I was happy. Step 5. Add connection. Then we ate ice cream, and after that we walked home together. Do you see? With these 5 steps, a short event becomes a full story. Let's try one more complete example together. Listen, last Saturday morning, I woke up early. The sun was bright, and I felt excited. First, I made breakfast and drank coffee. Then, I decided to go to the park. While I was walking, I saw some children playing soccer. I smiled and remembered my childhood. After that, I met my best friend near the lake. We bought ice cream, and we talked for an hour. Finally, I went home tired but very happy. Now shadow this long story. Last Saturday morning, I woke up early. Pause for shadowing. The sun was bright, and I felt excited. Pause for shadowing. First, I made breakfast and drank coffee. Pause for shadowing. Then, I decided to go to the park. Pause for shadowing. While I was walking, I saw some children playing soccer. Pause for shadowing. I smiled and remembered my childhood. Pause for shadowing. After that, I met my best friend near the lake. Pause for shadowing. We bought ice cream, and we talked for an hour. Pause for shadowing. Finally, I went home tired but very happy. Pause for shadowing. Fantastic storytelling. Now let's review Part 8. 1. Connect small stories to build one long story. 2. Use linking words like and, but, so, because, while. 3. Add description, action, and feelings step by step. 4. Always think of your story as a journey with a beginning, middle, and end. Here is your homework. Write 3 small events from your day. Then, connect them into one long story using linking words. For example, Event 1, I ate breakfast. Event 2, I went to work. Event 3, I met my friend. Long story. This morning I ate breakfast. After that, I went to work. While I was walking, I met my friend, and we talked for 10 minutes. Now it's your turn. Write your version in the comments and practice speaking it aloud 3 times. In the next part, Part 9, we will learn how to use questions inside your stories to make them more interesting and interactive. This will help you sound more natural and confident in English conversations. Stay with me. Part 9 is coming next. Now that you know how to set the scene and describe what is happening, let's add something very important: feelings and emotions. Why? Because stories are not just about what people do. Stories are also about how people feel. When you share feelings, your listener connects with you more. Think about this. If you only say, I went to the park, I saw a dog, I left the park, it is very flat. There is no emotion. It is like reading a list. But if you say, I went to the park, I saw a big dog, and at first I was scared. But then the dog wagged its tail, and I felt happy. Now it feels alive. You are not just telling events, you are telling your heart. Let's practice together. I will give you some feelings. Repeat after me. I was happy. I was scared. I was tired. I was excited. I was nervous. I was angry. Good. Now let's put these into sentences. Imagine you are at a birthday party. You can say, it was my friend's birthday. I was excited because there was cake and music. Imagine you are at school. You can say, I had a big test today. I was nervous before the test. After the test, I felt tired. Do you see how this makes your story stronger? People don't just know what happened, they know how you felt. Let's build a short story together with emotions. Listen first. Yesterday, I walked to the store. It was raining, and I felt cold. Suddenly, I saw my friend with an umbrella. I felt so happy. We shared the umbrella and laughed all the way to the store. Now, repeat after me slowly. Yesterday, I walked to the store. It was raining, and I felt cold. Suddenly, I saw my friend with an umbrella. I felt so happy. We shared the umbrella and laughed all the way to the store. Excellent. Can you feel the difference? The story is not just action, it has emotion. When you practice, try to always ask yourself, how did I feel? How can I tell that feeling in English? Even one or two simple words like happy, sad, scared, excited can change everything. Now let's practice a little shadowing with emotions. Listen and repeat, following the rhythm of my voice. I was nervous before the meeting. I was excited to see my best friend. I was scared when I heard the loud noise. I was happy when I passed my exam. Well done. Remember, emotions make your story real. They make your English come alive. In the next part, we will learn how to use questions to make your story more interesting and interactive. Stories become more fun when they are not one way. When you tell a story, you can also use questions. Questions make your story interactive. They invite the listener to join you. Think about this. If you just talk and talk, maybe people listen, but maybe they lose focus. But if you ask them a question, their mind wakes up. They start thinking. They feel part of the story. For example, imagine this story. I went to the park yesterday. I saw a big dog. Do you like dogs? I was a little scared at first, but then the dog was friendly. Did you notice when I asked, do you like dogs? Suddenly, the listener is part of my story. They think about their answer. This makes your English sound more natural and friendly. Let's practice with some questions you can use inside your stories. Repeat after me. Do you like? Have you ever? Can you imagine? What would you do if? Very good. Now let's put these inside stories. Listen carefully. Last summer, I went to the beach. The water was very cold. Have you ever swum in cold water? At first, I didn't want to go in, but then my friends jumped, and I joined them. We laughed a lot. Now shadow with me. Last summer, I went to the beach. The water was very cold. Have you ever swum in cold water? At first, I didn't want to go in, but then my friends jumped, and I joined them. We laughed a lot. Good. See how natural it feels? Here is another example. Yesterday, I tried cooking a new dish. Can you imagine the smell in my kitchen? It was delicious, but I added too much salt. Have you ever made a mistake in cooking? It happens to me often. Now repeat after me. Yesterday, I tried cooking a new dish. Can you imagine the smell in my kitchen? It was delicious, but I added too much salt. Have you ever made a mistake in cooking? It happens to me often. Very nice. Questions are powerful because they keep your listener curious. They also make you sound confident and friendly. Even if your story is simple and you add one or two questions, it becomes more alive. So here is a small task for you. After this video, try telling a story about your day and include at least 2 questions for your listener. For example, I went shopping today. Do you like shopping? I bought some fruit. Have you ever tried mangoes? Easy, right? This is how you connect with people in English. In the next part, We will focus on adding surprise and suspense to your story to make it exciting and unforgettable. We are now at the final step of our storytelling journey. You have learned how to set the scene, describe actions, use emotions, and ask questions. But there is one more element that makes stories unforgettable: surprise. Why is surprise important? Because when something unexpected happens, people remember it. It makes the listener curious, excited, and ready to hear what happens next. Think about movies or books you love. They always have a moment of surprise. You can do the same, even with simple English. Let's practice. Listen first. I was walking home yesterday. Suddenly, I heard a strange sound behind me. I turned around, and it was just my cat following me. See? The surprise is small, but it makes the story fun. Here is another one. I was baking a cake. Everything was going well, but when I opened the oven, surprise, I had forgotten the sugar. The cake tasted terrible. Now, let's shadow together slowly. I was walking home yesterday. Suddenly, I heard a strange sound behind me. I turned around, and it was just my cat following me. Great. Now repeat after me again. I was baking a cake. Everything was going well, but when I opened the oven, surprise! I had forgotten the sugar. The cake tasted terrible. Excellent job. Even a small surprise can make people laugh or smile. You don't need big words. You only need simple English with emotion and energy. Now, let's wrap everything up. You have learned how to set the scene with time and place, how to describe actions with simple sentences, how to use connecting words like and then and but, how to show feelings and emotions, how to use questions to connect with your listener, how to add surprise to make your story unforgettable. This is the complete formula for telling stories in English fluently. So here is your challenge. Today, tell one short story about your day. Make sure you include 3 things: one feeling, one question, and one surprise. It can be very short. For example, this morning I woke up late. I was nervous because I had a meeting. Have you ever been late? But surprise! The meeting was canceled, so I was happy. Simple, right? You can do it. Now it's your turn. Share your short story in the comments below. I will read your stories, and you will practice real English. Thank you so much for learning with me today here on Miss Fluent English. You did an amazing job. If you enjoyed this lesson, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment with your own story. Your practice today will help you speak English more fluently tomorrow. Keep practicing, keep smiling, and keep telling your stories in English. I will see you in the next lesson.